Hi, I'm Parneet Jaggi, and this is going to be a continuation of the synopsis of the novel Oliver Twist, written by Charles Dickens. Now, in the previous videos, we noticed as to how Oliver had to go through lots of trials, tribulations, and struggles in his life after being born, and his mother soon died after his birth. So, he had a tough childhood, and when he grew up into a young boy, he was almost every time trapped into the company of notorious people. And in the last lecture, in the last chapter, we saw that he got trapped in the group of these pickpockets who, under the leadership of Fagin, were almost all the time stealing things from the people in the market. Now, when we last left the video in the series, we saw how Oliver was also trained in the den of Fagin to pickpocket things, steal things from the people's pockets in the market, and how Oliver gets caught by the police. Even when he is not stealing anything, he gets caught and he lands up in jail. Now, that is the place where he is taken by Mr. Brownlow to his home, and he is looked after like a kid at his place. And he is touched by the care of the assistant, the housekeeper of Brownlow, Mrs. Bedouin, who watches over him, looks after him, as if his mother had come to sit by him. So now we see that Oliver is now in a new place among new people, but he does not actually know them. So, continuing this story, in the next chapter we find, in chapter 13, we find that Fagin, when he comes to know that Oliver has not come back after stealing from the marketplace, Fagin erupts into a rage. When these two people, Dodger and Charlie, return without getting Oliver with them. Now Fagin tosses a pot of beer at Charlie, and the pot hits Bill Sikes instead. Now, Sikes is not a normal man. He's a rough, cruel man who makes his living by robbing houses. So they all resolve to find Oliver before he reveals their operation to the authorities, and also persuade Nancy to go to the police station to find what actually had happened to Oliver. So Nancy dresses herself in nice clothing, and at the police station when she reaches, she pretends to be Oliver's sister. And she learns that the gentleman from whom the handkerchief was stolen actually took Oliver home with him to the neighborhood of Pentonville, because this boy Oliver had fallen ill during the trial in the jail, in the police station. Now Fagin sends Charlie, Jack and Nancy to Pentonville to find Oliver, and Fagin decides to relocate his operation for the night and fill his pockets with watches and jewelry from the hidden box after Charlie, Nancy and Jack leave. So we see from this chapter that Fagin is far more clever than we think or than other people know. Then when Oliver next enters the housekeeper's room, housekeeper is Mrs. Bedouin, he suddenly notices that the portrait of the lady whom he resembles is now gone. He had earlier seen the portrait of the lady with whom his own face resembled. Now that portrait is missing. Mrs. Bedouin says that Brownlow removed it because it seemed to worry Oliver. One day, Brownlow sends for Oliver to meet him in his study room, and assuming that Brownlow means to send him away, Oliver begs to remain as a servant. Now, this is the first time Oliver has found a family-like atmosphere, love and care in his life. So he starts begging to Mr. Brownlow that he should keep him here as a servant. Brownlow assures Oliver that he wishes to be Oliver's friend. He asks Oliver to tell him his history, his story. Now, before Oliver can begin, Brownlow's friend, Mr. Grimwig, arrives to visit. Now, who is Grimwig? Grimwig is a crotchety old man, a friend of Brownlow, and he hints that Oliver might be a boy of bad habits. Now, Brownlow bears his friend's odd manners and eccentricity with good humor. Mrs. Bedouin brings in a parcel of books delivered by the bookstall keeper's boy, and Brownlow wishes to send his payment and some returns back with the boy, but he has already gone. Now, here Grimwig suggests that Brownlow should send Oliver, but also hints that Oliver might steal the payment and the books. So, wishing to prove Grimwig wrong, Brownlow sends Oliver on that task, on that errand of books. It grows dark and Oliver does not return. So we see there is a twist in the story where this Oliver is given a task to the bookstall and he does not return by evening and it is dark. Now what has happened is actually, we see in the next chapter, Oliver has taken a wrong turn on the way to the bookstall. So when he turns wrong, suddenly he could see Nancy. Nancy appears before him. She tells everyone on the street that Oliver is her runaway brother who joined a band of thieves and that she's taking him back to their parents. Everyone ignores Oliver's protests. Now he's trying to shout that I don't want to go with her, but she kind of cooks a story that Oliver is her brother and he had run away and he's angry with her. So she is able to take Oliver. Bill Sikes runs out of a beer shop and he and Nancy together drag Oliver through the dark back streets. So this is how Oliver is once again trapped in that web of thieves. Now in the next chapter we find that Nancy, Sikes and Oliver arrive at a broken, dilapidated house in a dirty, squalid neighborhood. Fagin, the Dodger and Charlie laugh hysterically at the fancy clothing, the beautiful clothes that Oliver is wearing. Oliver calls for help, he shouts, he runs, he flees, but Sikes threatens to set his vicious dog, the evil dog, the ferocious dog, Bullseye, on him. Nancy then leaps to Oliver's defense, saying that they have ruined all his good prospects, that he could have a better life, he could have escaped a life, that they are living in that dirty surrounding, but they have ruined his future prospects. She has worked for Fagin since she was a small child, and she knows that a life of disrepute lies in wait for Oliver. Now she knows that he's going to have a dirty life over here. Fagin tries to beat Oliver for his escape attempt, and Nancy flies at Fagin in a rage. Sikes catches Nancy by the wrist and she faints. So they strip Oliver, they tear all the clothing of Oliver, Brownlow's money that he was carrying and the books. So he is completely entrapped and tortured by these people. Fagin returns Oliver's old clothing to him and sends him to bed. Now Oliver had given the clothing to Mrs. Bedouin, who sold it to a Jew, and then the Jew delivered this clothing to Fagin and told Fagin where Oliver was. So this had become a circle. Oliver had removed his old clothes in the house of Mr. Brownlow, and Brownlow had actually sold those clothes, and those clothes came back to the den of Fagin. Now we see at the place of Mr. Brownlow, he's worried, he's also a bit angry. He publishes an advertisement offering a reward of 5 guineas for information about Oliver's whereabouts or his past. Now Mr. Bumble notices it in the paper while travelling to London, and he quickly goes to Brownlow's home. Mr. Bumble states that since birth, Oliver has displayed nothing but treachery, ingratitude and malice. So this means he is trying to spoil the reputation of this innocent child, Oliver, and he is trying to show it to Brownlow that Oliver was never a good boy. Bumble tells Brownlow that Oliver attacked Noah Claypole without any provocation, without giving him any kind of an anger, and Brownlow decides Oliver is nothing but an impostor. So this is how Brownlow is made to believe that Oliver is completely a cheat. He is not an honest boy. He has been a dishonest, a cheat since his childhood. But Mrs. Bedouin, the housekeeper, refuses to believe Mr. Bumble. Now, on the other side, we see that Fagin leaves Oliver locked up in the house for days together. He's not allowed to move out in the open. During the daytime, Oliver is all alone. He has no human company. The Dodger and Charlie ask him why he does not give himself over to Fagin, since the money comes quickly and easily in their jolly life. Fagin gradually allows Oliver to spend more time in other boys' company. Sometimes he even regales his crew with funny stories of robberies that he had committed in his youth. So he is kind of entertaining his group with the stories of crime, robberies. Oliver often laughs at the stories despite himself, and Fagin's plan has been to isolate Oliver until he comes to be so grateful for any human contact that he will do whatever Fagin. So he is trying to mentally torture Oliver by keeping him all alone, isolating him the whole day. Sykes plans to rob a house, but he needs a small boy for the job. Fagin offers Oliver's services. Sykes warns Oliver that he will kill him if he shows any signs of hesitation during the robbery. Now Sykes arranges to have Nancy deliver Oliver to the scene. Sykes is going to go for the robbery first, and Nancy will get Oliver to the robbery scene later on. Fagin watches Nancy for any signs of hesitation. So he is kind of apprehensive, he is fearful that Nancy might be hesitant in taking Oliver to commit that crime. Despite her earlier protests against trapping Oliver in a life of crime, she betrays no further misgivings. So she has to be loyal to these people because she has been doing work with them throughout her childhood. Now Fagin informs Oliver that he'll be taken to Sykes' residence that night. He gives Oliver a book to read. Oliver waits, shivering in horror at the book's bloody tales of famous criminals and murders. Now this book that he's given to read is all about crimes and murders. Nancy arrives to take him away. Oliver considers calling for help on the streets. So he thinks of shouting on streets so that he can get some help, and he wants to escape. Reading his thoughts on his face, Nancy warns him that he could get both of them into deep trouble. So she warns him not to do anything which could provoke or which could make Fagin angry. They arrive at Sykes' residence, and Sykes shows Oliver a pistol. He warns Oliver that if he causes any trouble, he will kill him. So at 5 in the morning, they prepare to leave for the job. So this is how Oliver is actively made to participate in the world of crimes, robbery, and he is being trained to hold a pistol, to be quiet, to not actually rebel, not shout, and be courageous enough to kill or steal anything that they want him to do. So this is how he is further entrapped in the world of crime, and we'll be continuing this story in the coming video. Thank you for now.